my name is Catherine Logan, and I'm a student at the Dayton Regional STEM School. This is my 2022 science fair project, The Science of Lying. Lying means to make an untrue statement with the intent to deceive, and the average person lies more than 200 times a day. But what is so important about lying, and why would I choose this as a science fair experiment? Well, lying is a worldwide concept that applies to everyone, and this means that I would have a bigger audience or more people affected by my conclusion. For the experiment, lying is important because it's a situation of pressure that shows physical symptoms of anxiety, which can be collected and help me to come to a conclusion how this differentiates from person to person, how lying is different for sex, age, religion, socioeconomic status, etc. And I can tie this back to just how people were brought up differently, how people were taught to handle their emotions during situations of pressure. So I think that it can generally teach us a lot of how people were raised differently based on their ability to lie. A polygraph test. This is very important to know because it's normally the lie detector test that most people take. I do have to alter it a little bit based on my abilities, but it's still good to know what it is. A polygraph test focuses on the physical responses that show the participant is lying. They normally focus on heart rate, beats per minute, respiration rate, breaths per minute, blood pressure, skin conductivity. I'll tell you skin conductivity, not most people know about it, but it's just from one point on your hand to the other point on the hand. Your skin conductivity gets higher if you have sweating or condensation, and your body's natural response is to sweat in an attempt to cool down your body. And your body heats up because you're nervous, embarrassed, anxious, and it's your way of expressing or showing that. And then the sweating is your body's way of cooling you down and resolving that anxiety. For my experiment specifically, I will be looking at 9th through 12th graders. I will have 4 from each grade, 2 males and 2 females, and I will ask them 10 questions, 5 of which they will tell the truth and 5 of which they will tell lies. I will be measuring skin temperature, which, yes, it's not exactly skin conductivity, but as your skin conductivity goes up, your temperature of your hand goes up as well. So I can just measure the temperature of the hand. Respiration rate, and force against the respiration belt. So I'm using a Go Direct respiration belt that uses a force sensor and an adjustable nylon strap around the chest to measure respiration effort and respiration rate. So this is helping me know how many breaths they're taking and also to the extent of how these breaths are. So if they're exaggerated inhales or exhales, which often, if these are exaggerated inhales or exhales, it means they're nervous because they're gasping for breath or they're hyperventilating. Anything that deals with breathing can really show how a person is reacting to a situation. What do I want to discover? Well, I want to know who's the best liar, the worst liar, and my demographic. And are there any patterns in grade or sex? And my driving question, do lying similarities correspond more between sex or age? Well, my predictions for these is I think freshmen will be the worst liars due to their young age, just because there'll be less experiments, and females will also be the worst liars due to their expressive body language. And I think that as age increases, people will get better at lying due to more practice. And lastly, for my driving question, I believe there will be a large difference in the results from the females and males, meaning that there is a large connection between sex and lying, just because of how these two sexes are raised differently and taught to deal with emotional situations or situations of pressure. So first I have my respiration rate truth results. I take the min and the max of each set, and then I find the difference between this min and max to get the domain, and then I find the average so that I can include this to one number. I do the same with the lying, where I find the min and the max, the difference between them, and then the average for that group. And there are copies of these tables and this exact data in my science fair paper if you're interested on reviewing them further. So then I get my truth average and my lie average. And then I can find the difference between the truths and the lies. So the baseline, and then either how far away they are from this baseline of truth or lie, or how close they are together. I put this on the number line so it's easier to tell, and you can see that some of these numbers are negative, which just means they're further away from they're still away from the baseline, but it doesn't matter if it's negative or positive, just how far away it is from this baseline. And most of the time, this negative can be assumed that the participant was unnaturally calm, or trying to act cold or distant, or trying to be less expressive, which sometimes can make a person a better liar just because it's more convincing. The biggest thing that I concluded for this data set was that males were the worst liars related to respiration rate compared to females. For the age, it fluctuated a lot. It's kind of all over, which is going to lead me to not really making a conclusion. And you'll see this consistently throughout the other data sets. And this is why you're kind of starting to see that age is not connected to lying as much, or at least for these 4 grades. I do the same thing with skin temperature, which is measured in Celsius. I find the min and the max, the difference between the two, and then the average, so that I have one condensed number. I do this again for the lying, and then we come to skin temperature for my conclusion. I have the truth average, the lie average, and then the difference between these. And again, I put this on a number line so I can see how far away they are from this baseline. For this, females were the worst liars related to skin temperature. And again, you can see the grades are all over the place, and there's no consistent pattern of where the grades are, at least from my data set. I then again do the same thing with the expanding of the lungs. And I do this, the min and the max, the difference between them, and then the average. Do the same for the lying. And then you have your conclusion with the truth average, the lie average, and then the difference between these. I then graph this difference on a number line. And again, same thing with the age. It's very much all over the place. There's no consistent pattern of one grade or the other being a worse liar. And then we have that males are the worst liars related to the extent of their breathing compared to females. For my final conclusion, you can see again, there's seniors, sophomores, seniors, freshmen, seniors, sophomores. So there's pretty much every grade but juniors on there. But you can see consistently, males were the worst for expanding lungs, females were the worst for skin temperature, males were the worst for respiration rate, and females then were the best for expanding the lungs. Males were the worst for skin temperature, and females were the best for respiration rate. So, this helped me to conclude that there is no correlation between lying and age that I was able to see from my data, and I believe this was due to the small age range of my participants. I believe if you were to have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, you could probably see a greater difference considering their different generations. But 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th are raised very similarly, whereas the difference between being a female or a male in today's world causes you to be treated differently and grow up differently. And this is why there was a correlation between lying and sex based on my data, just like I predicted. So for my reflection, although I don't believe I answered my driving question thoroughly, I believe my data collection is a step towards understanding more about the occurrence of lies. Again, I think that I really didn't give age a fair chance because it was such a close age range. I believe that if I was to apply a larger range of ages, that you could see that there could be a correlation between these. And so for that reason, I don't think that this data can conclude successfully without more experiments. I would also like the chance to research and conclude more information because I find lying very interesting, and I feel like you can connect it to so many things about life and society and how people are raised. If I was to do this again, a specific thing that I would change is for the respiration belt. I would have had participants only wear one layer under it, instead of allowing them to keep their coats on, because you can see there's definitely a larger range of numbers there. Also, just in general, lying affects everyone, and that's why I believe that this, finding out more about lying and finding out more about how this can be connected and teach us more about how humans react with one another, I just think that's very important, and I think that we definitely need to do more experiments with lying and just how it is different from person to person. I think it'll really help us just figure out human behavior as a whole. And here are my sources. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I appreciate your time. I understand that it is hard doing virtual science fair, so I appreciate you for taking the time out of your day to watch all these videos. And I hope that you learned at least something new about lying or something that was of interest to you. Thank you so much.